That would,
It's gonna make a difference.
thank you.
The second issue is you don't know what you're even talking about.
Okay.
Oh, you.
I gave you the financial.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, did you just have the budget for me?
Yeah.
So this is the secretary quarterly meeting for the Spring Lake Townhomes on March 28th at 10 a.m. Delise, can we verify that this meeting was properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Fantastic. Now to check the quorum. So we have 2, 3 committee members. It gets a little, well, we have 2 of 2 committee members, correct? Okay,
However, we
have a third.
have a third coming.
okay,
Okay.
super. Mhm.
And he's submitting his paperwork, and I forwarded all the paperwork to him 2 days ago,
Okay.
okay? And gentleman who works at Corporate Public, so.
Fantastic. All right. That being said, luckily there are no action items because we can't really do any action items without a full set committee of the committee, but we can still run through the whole meeting just as a discussion.
Actually, we had a little bit of excited about what it means when we don't have a quorum and how decisions then get made if we're not able to make them. Also, a question that I had, that I mentioned to Craig was, when somebody drops off the committee, I know a communication was, I know this happened sort of towards the end, I guess, of the committee term, so there was like a month left. And we got a communication saying, hey, if you can find somebody by Friday, then you'll have a quorum and we could perhaps vote on things. Is there any expectation that when that happens, sort of in the middle of the committee year, that a communication goes out to the community to kind of let them know where we stand, like, hey, we don't have a quorum. If we don't have a quorum, we can't make certain
You
decisions.
don't
So,
have, yeah, your committee is nullified basically if you don't.
right,
Yeah.
so my request would be, if possible, if that ever happens again, that something doesn't come to Craig and I saying, hey, if you can find somebody in a month, because I don't have time to necessarily go
No,
out and find somebody, but something goes to specifically our community.
Yeah.
That says, this is where we're at, so that they're aware, and then perhaps somebody can step up to join us to make sure that we're not in a situation where we don't have.
Versus a blanket chip to all committees on, hey, this is a recruiting.
No, it would go out to your
Yeah, because I think that, was just like the general thing that goes out every year.
Guys, yeah, referencing or newly appointing or newly sat.
Right.
Now, if you're on the committee currently right now, do we have to resubmit our
Yes, we
paper?
do.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, so I just want to make sure, because I have my guys, I'll send it in.
So, and yeah, we'll just start with that since that's where we're at. Your committee would be, yeah, if you want to stay on or be re-sat, yes, please submit an application.
Yep.
Then the process will look a little different for the next. We have 2 phases, right? You have a current standing committee of 2 that you're trying to fill the 3rd seat for a current year. That can be done. But aside of that, now talking on a typical structure, if you had 3 members now, this is what we're talking with all service areas, is that in former years, so this is part of our changing to align with the processes set in the bylaws of CROA. This process is the appointment or sitting of the service area committee. The process is going to be changing from what has been done for many years in the past to what is written in the bylaws. The board will be reviewing this at the next workshop as this discussion to potentially change the bylaws, but that's a very, very hard thing to do. So we're just acting on how it's currently written now, which would be instead of how it's been in the past, where all candidate applications go to the board, they review them, and the board appoints the committee members. That's how it's been in the past, as right in your seat. It'll go now, that's not in accordance to the bylaws. It needs to be done by a vote or a proxy vote, same way how you got your committee, that type of voting, not a full out election. However, that being said, that process is only needed if you have more than 5 applications in, because your committee is 3 to 5.
Okay.
Probably not going to have that, but that's just it's a socialization of where we're looking at. And that new committee is only sat at an annual meeting of your service area. That annual meeting are being scheduled as your Q2 service area meeting, which would mean that your current committee is standing until the new committee is sat. What that means for you is if you get a 3rd member now, this current 2025, 2026 committee is a standing committee until your June meeting, which is your annual meeting for this year, where you then will be reset a new committee,
Is it June of 26?
June of this year.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense? I feel like I was a bit convoluted in my.
No, I understand that. I mean, basically, because, but if it's Jennifer, Mark and I, you know, and we turn around and you only have three,
Nothing really changes then.
that's,
Okay.
it's when you only have more than five, correct?
Yes.
Is that you're going in. So we could actually have a fourth committee member then,
Yes.
Mr. John.
You can have a fourth and fifth.
But if it's over five, then it has to go to some type of election process. And that election process is not, is it voted on by the Spring Lake
Yes,
ownership?
only by the Spring Lake Townhome Committee owners.
Okay, of which,
So let me ask this. So if we get, let's say you get more than 5 applications, say you get 6 applications, then how many spots? Is there 5
There's
spots?
5.
Okay.
So
so
your committee is technically in the writing, it's a 5-person committee, which means you have quorum, your quorum is 3. So that means if you lose or do not fill seats, as long as you have 3 active members, you are still a formed committee.
Okay.
So really it's 5 with a quorum of 3. So that's why you have that, we say that 3 to 5.
Got it.
Now, if you get, let's say you do get 6 applicants, or let's say you get the 3 of you plus John Doe. Yes, then all 4 of you can just will slide in, but John Doe will not be on the committee until that annual meeting takes place.
Okay. Got it. And then just to clarify, we were talking about this a little earlier, without the quorum, when requests come in, like there have been some things where there have been requests for repairs, like, you know, bids have been gotten in, you know, we've been asked to weigh in on which one to go with, that sort of thing. Who ultimately is making decisions, everything on hold, or obviously there are certain decisions that may need to be made.
Without, so like how you're currently standing with 2,
Yeah.
now you're operating like service areas that do not have committees. So it's a generalized voice of your service area now, and your service area management in that sense still takes action, moves things, but if there's like large changes, it would need a more larger voice.
Okay,
Then
so it
just
says.
to the 2
put in
individuals.
some larger changes.
yeah, but who ultimately like approves the budget? Who, I think if you don't have 3 people, then does it go to you and others that say we're gonna make that decision?
Yes, so so your service area committees in a form are
Recommendation.
recommendation committees.
Yeah.
So when we talk in Q2 about your budgets, in a sense, let's say you say blatantly, no, Jacob, Rose, I do not like the budget you're presenting next year. Okay, that's your recommendation. It may disagree with management recommendation. Both those recommendations will be taken to the board, and because the board inevitably always approves your budget,
Right.
always approves these major changes. So it's not
So you
like,
can override the committee is really what you're saying.
Mhm.
You know, you can override the committee. We're a recommendation. You can either live by that recommendation, advise by that recommendation, or support the recommendation.
yes,
But ultimately, things go to the board. So if we
correct.
felt very strongly, we could go to a board meeting and sort of.
Correct.
Case to the board.
Correct. So like, actually, yeah, that's a great line. So like right now, if we start moving on a project for your service area and you strongly disagree with the project, your course of action would be to communicate, well, you can communicate with us and see if we'll do anything.
Sure.
If not, then it would be to tell the board, hey, I, as a homeowner, am strongly disagreed to this, or as, a
Okay,
you know,
that's what I thought, and hopefully they'll come to that, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to understand how
Yeah.
that works in case we ever find ourselves in this situation again.
mhm. All right, back to, no, it's a good discussion. It's a very good discussion on those items. So, but that, I mean, we basically just discovered discussion item E, which is your service area committee member process that we've been putting on all of these. So kind of tell everyone that the process is a bit different and that your current standing committees are running about a month and a half longer than they have in the past because we're doing all of these annual meetings in June.
Okay,
Mhm. And it just looks different from the appointment from the main board to now if required, a election from your service area.
And what's the timeframe? Like if they do the election, does it have to happen within a certain timeframe? What is the?
It's a very short time frame.
Okay.
I think it's like a 2 week is all that's required for that. Yours is not at all like the Pro Board's election
Yeah.
process. It's just, like I said, the same process that you did for electing to have a committee.
Okay.
It mirrors that same process.
Okay.
All right, Luis, CDD, GoGov requests and updates?
Yes, GoGov requests this quarter, service area in a whole has had open 102 tickets, closed 95 for this quarter. It ranges between all service area. So if Spring Lake Town Home has submitted any issues with the area plan installation, failure irrigation, that has all already been assigned to the vendor for follow-up.
Next item is financials. Quick overview of your financials. Your operating cash is looking good, sitting at 105,000. We have some money in accounts receivable. Under deposits funds is sitting okay. Prepaid expenses is looking good, so okay. And your reserves is sitting without any interfund assets or without any IOUs, so that's very good. Sitting at 1.25 million. Our contribution for this year from your budget is looking at 222,000. That's what that's what was written into your 2025 budget. So that's, and your current standing expectation of your service area entering the year of 2025 is, so it was expected by the reserve funding plan that you'd be entering the year of 2025 with a balance of 1.233 million. And you're at 1.256 after 2 months in, so you are right on track where we're supposed to be in your reserves. This year, we're seeing an expected expenditures of, sorry, what I'm referencing is not.
Yeah.
Reserve study. Just like to go under, we've just been lightly going over these with all the committees just so we can. Okay, so you have very low expenses in the next couple of years, right? So only $8,400 this year, $8,700 next year, $9,000 the next year, all landscaping line. Is that
But is
Yes,
that really a realistic number? Because when we just looked at, when we did the walkthrough and it was like $11,400
That's
last thing. And what Jacob, we need to understand is
Okay.
how far is, when we walked this, Jennifer, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. We walked all the way to Kiowa, behind Kiowa, okay, so the entrance. We really didn't walk the balance of the back end down, all the way down Resolute, okay? And when we discussed it with Brian, it was like $11,400 is what the number was for landscaping replacement. I'm getting inundated, and I mean inundated, guys, because they hear that landscaping is gonna go in from, and what am I getting associated? And I'm down at the other end of the spectrum. And then the other, I'll use the what more politely, complaint. Okay, the other word begins with a B. Okay, and it says, well, why always is that end getting more of the dollars associated with landscaping renovation? Okay, and we want to know why. And the reality is, at this point right now, I don't know where that's at. So when we talk about $9,000, now how far is that $11,400 going?
Okay.
Okay, and we need to make sure there's a level. It's at that point right now, I don't know what Brian's doing all the way down to the final view. Do you?
No, and one of the questions I had relative to landscaping, was I thought things were supposed to sort of have gotten started. Maybe they have, and I'm just not seeing it, but I haven't seen any
No,
action.
nothing. It's not because of the water.
Other question that I have is, I know on the landscaping invoice things, everything, at least in the recent documentation, still reads with the old plants, not the newer ones that we had decided upon. I don't know if that's necessary, if that's just an understanding that like the holly is gonna be viburnum and not holly.
Correct.
But I noticed on, I think, the documents that we have,
Correct.
which look like the invoices from January, which were the old ones. That's not updated, and so I don't know if for documentation purposes, because we had talked, not only about, you know, the holly, but also some other, I know there was one of the spiky plants, we had talked about a different variety than what initially was on there. Because it was likely to be hardier and last a little bit longer, so maybe that's not,
It should be updated.
you know, that needs to be updated. I know we relayed to Rose like what the changes were going to be.
Yeah.
Brian did that, but, and you're right, because that was gonna be my next piece of this. I noticed things in the budget that were not the plants that in totality that we agreed to being put in by Brian. Okay, so we need to make sure that there's a level of clarity there. So
No, I
once there's
understand
clarity
what
there.
you're saying. This is-
and
It is common.
Yeah.
We have had this before where we get an estimate and then we, you know, a walk through our discussions with Brian, we change out some of the plans.
Right.
And he is very good at keeping word of those discussions and keeping it in line to the pricing that was seen on the quote.
Right.
But just for, you know, for document's sake, we can get it up, we can have this updated before approval.
And we need to know how.
We should,
far
we
that
still
land-
should especially just get this to be better reflective.
Correct. And I guess that's our point. And then the other reflection is how far does that carry through the neighborhood? Okay?
I think it
You know.
needs to be zoned out.
Yes, he has it by addresses and then he.
Is it by addresses?
It is by addresses. If,
Oh, perfect.
it's at the
Okay.
same time, he was also doing gardens, which is separate, but it looks like everything is getting done at the same time.
It is by addresses. Okay.
Mhm. But I can have him send us a report of which location is being done, so that way you expect it and you're aware of what's going in. I'll have him revise it.
Okay, yeah, as long as I understand, because this is coming down. So what it sounds like to me is in the budget, it is the entire townhome position in Spring Lake, is that right? Based upon these addresses, or it's only these addresses that are getting changes based upon that contract?
Correct, it's only.
Only these addresses, and that is based off of a review of the entire association of what needs, what are the largest needs. Has resulted in this.
All right, so we just need the plans updated and then, I mean, we need to send out some type of communication of when it's gonna start.
Yes.
Okay?
Mhm.
It is going to incorporate all of these addresses and put that, that needs to go out to to our,
Yeah.
our neighbor
People were.
and timing.
Sure. The other question I have, and I know Brian was gonna check on this because I don't believe it falls under his purview. But again, the two sort of obelisks, at least at the Kiowa entrance, there are some, I don't know, dead flowers on one side and nothing on the other, and it looks awful. And it just, at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna go put some flowers in, because it's a terrible sort of welcome to the community, and I don't think it's Brian, I'm not sure. But I don't know who we can talk to about like.
It's
these.
yeah, actually, we're in a gray, it's very much a gray area. That and the planting outside of the perimeter wall facing the boulevard.
Right.
Because we're looking at that, because we need to get that also addressed. What it's looked like it's coming down to is the owner, because we've done a lot of digging in the past month and a half on who owns it and whose responsibility is it, because the lines from CDE to everything blend. We do have a rough quote to basically just fill in the gaps. It's not an enhancement or anything. It's filling in the gaps of the boulevard side of your full perimeter wall. That's looking like it may trickle to become a 50-50 split on paying the bill between CROA and the service area.
Okay.
Because of the ownership of that. In most technicality, it's looking like it's ownership of the service area. But that's just, we're like, it's just such a tricky item that we can fight to say that there's ownership of CROA because of the Muse ownerships are taking up percentages of that. If you were to say other side of who owns the other side of the wall, that's why we're looking at taking a 50-50 approach with it. That being said, that wall is, the monoliths are part of that. I'll talk to Brian, we can put that under, that'll be a CROA.
Pull the fed bush, so they at least look even. I mean, that's not ideal, but.
No,
I mean,
we can
it's
look at
just-
that.
It's everybody who comes to visit me, will comment, it's sort of like a running joke at this point, that it just looks.
Well, and we talked a lot about the pillars that are outside there as well.
Yeah,
And I have personally gone and redid all the Spring Lake letters because they were in the grass.
Mhm.
Oh, on the muses?
The pillars that you go up, so the little plaque that says, Spring Lake and all that.
Mhm.
Well, we have white, that's because all the letters are.
Fall off all the-
Like the muse monoliths you're talking
No,
about?
the
Or
ones right at the front of, the same ones that have the dead flowers. at the
Yeah,
bottom.
okay.
The letters, Spring Lake.
Oh, okay, yes, yes.
Fall off
The
on a
letters.
pretty regular basis.
And so,
Send a
Yeah.
GoGov ticket in anytime that happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the reality is that they're all in the grass, so I went out.
No, our Crow maintenance team can repair those and should through.
And it sat there literally for 2 months and.
And I did have one question.
If you see those come in,
Budget.
just assign those to maintenance, not service area.
Mhm.
Sorry.
So, the power washing, I think
Okay.
when I was looking at that, and again, I'm not an expert in the numbers, but it looked like the estimate versus the actual, there was like a $4,000 difference. Here. Where's-
It's an expenses power washing.
Yeah, I know it was on that 52-page document, I think it's right,
I see that you had an expense
So-
year of $7,200.
yeah, so
This
budget
is-
was 31, actual was 72. Here,
Yes, that's, right here. Yeah, right here.
yeah, there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering how that,
Right, budget was, where do you see 30? Oh, year to date, 31. Okay, that's an easy, your
oh, okay, that's just year to date.
year to date. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess,
Because it's done twice a year.
Yeah, your
Okay.
total, if you go back, yeah, so switch one line over.
as I said, an English teacher. not a
No, you're good.
teacher.
Yeah, so your total budget is aligned with the actual
Actual
budget that's
budget.
agreed on at the 18,900 for it. Yeah, that sometimes gets people. And then it's, of course, it's showing that on a monthly, you're, in a deficit of 5,000, you're still you're looking on an annual basis,
Yep,
you're fine.
that makes
All right,
perfect.
so Jacob, what are we doing about the whole issue we had talked about in the budget? Assuming I know it has to go to an election basic type thing, but what are we doing with this exterior light position in that neighborhood? Remember, we talked about the service area that we're getting, all the people are running around saying this needs to be, you're going to get charged $100 a day if you don't paint them. And then the last meeting, we talked about, well, I'm gonna replace it, and I'm gonna put a foam in, and then I don't do that, and I'm gonna paint mine green just to be obstinate, and
Yeah,
that type of thing. So we said, why don't we turn around and put into the budget the replacement of these light fixtures, the exterior piece, one in the kind of the courtyard area and the one that's above the garage. And then we would put that into the budget annually, and on a repetition, they would be maintained at the times we are painting the dwellings, okay? That we're saying, because right now we got people ad hoc and all kind of stuff,
Mhm.
okay?
I know we had discussions about changing that in the charter responsibilities, and those did carry over outside of your meeting. Rose, Elise, do you know where we are on? I see you have it in your hand, it looks like.
Yes, bear with me a second.
Okay.
Because we either have to we have to send notification out that we're now going to go through, and then I think it needs to be, what is it, 70%? What's the number?
Okay, but if-
75.
Like,
Seventy.
share in the comments area.
People that live there.
You can do proxy votes. Light fixture exterior, currently on the owner for maintaining existing light fixtures in clean and functional order, painting as necessary. The notes on this are ARC and service area pre-approval required when replacing light fixtures. New comment made of committee suggestion, service area repair light fixtures during paint cycles established by reserve study. The supplement does not give this power to the service areas. Whose note was that, Lawrence?
The
Or
attorneys,
was it, who?
Lauren and the attorneys were handling that. So I'm not quite sure who.
I know, that's right. I've seen this, is with legal. So legal saying it's not in their document, so it would be a change to the bylaws to do that.
But we seem like we're in a whole pattern that I don't know where that whole pattern's at. We've been hovering around the airport now for like 6 trips around the airport. So we either have to get, something
Same
out
with
there.
mailboxes, yeah, it was the same.
And the same thing, because we talked about the poles, not the actual mailboxes itself. And because those poles are holding multiple mailboxes.
Just one of the things that we had noted about the light fixtures is that so the light fixtures are uniform and they correspond to the style of the home. So if you go down the alleys, all of the light fixtures, there's some variances between them. In a particular row, they're all the same, but the variances are due to the style of the home in the
Yeah.
front. And so the concern was if it needs replaced, you could put any old thing
Yes.
up there. It then could become a little bit of a hodgepodge.
Yes,
And that's why, one of the reasons why we were talking about, perhaps trying to bring that under our purview to keep some semblance of conformity.
And Jacob, also the painting of the issue. So if we go down the route of painting, okay? I like gloss, you like flat, okay? I like satin finish. I mean, and then not only can you have.
on the fixtures.
All the,
Your concerns are valid, and that's because they're valid as well as that's how it's scoped to be now, right? It's on the
well, they're 9
on
years
the
old.
homeowner, and we do, I live in a surface area myself, I understand, that the alley lights are different, it's in a much older surface area where they have been changed out, and it is customized by owner, and I understand what you're trying to go with by not letting that take place.
Well, especially because they're all townhomes. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the real issue. And to me, you're gonna lose all kind of uniforms in this by having just.
It will,
And then the other issue is what I'm also getting feedback is, okay, I'm willing to do that, but where do I buy the light fixture? Well,
how do you find the
how
exact?
do you find, how do you find it? Well, the issue is, these are builder specials that, that David Weekly probably can't buy those fixtures in this time. They're 9-year-old fixtures.
Yeah, so I think it looks like it's cleared, like it's been. This can't be combined.
But the problem is that letters have been continuously, now I think that they've stopped after the second or third time. But we still have letters going out threatening people of $100 fine per day if they don't take action. So now, it's now been about a month and a half since then. And so I'm fielding 10, 15 emails a week going, am I gonna get charged $100? What are we doing? I haven't seen, where I can vote on it. What are we doing? So that's where.
I think that
Rose is trying to chime in here, but Rose, can you hear us?
second, maybe I can have her speak through my computer in a second.
Since more, I don't know whether it's like,
I think after the first, once it went out, they paused them.
yeah,
They paused them.
well, not after the first one, there were a couple that went.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they don't balance the links in.
Like, I'm shocked.
Hey, Rose.
It's just. Yeah.
She shows us unmuted though.
Yeah, I know. Hey, Rose, I don't know what's up with the AV.
I know, I'm sorry.
Hope you feel better, Rose. This is Craig.
Thank you, thank you. So I was mentioning that we have a concern about the light fixtures and the mailboxes. What I was thinking, if we don't want to do the supplemental page because it's gonna be a cost and everything, and I spoke to Jacob, how about if when you do the paint project, we add that as to the scope of work as a change order?
Very good.
So what you do is, you do paint them as part of the service area, and you do paint in the mailboxes, but it's still gonna be that in between cycles, it will be the homeowner's responsibility.
That would align, that makes sense in alignment.
Do you follow me? So instead of doing all the change and the voting and extra money in that, then we can do it as a change order as part of a paint project. So we have the regular scope of work, and then we add paint, light fixtures and paint mailboxes as part of the paint project.
Does that make sense to you?
No, I'm listening intently, and I'm like, okay, so you just put like a work order in, is that what you're saying?
If you have a standing committee, you have an easier voice to make adjustments when it comes to our large projects. So let's say during the paint project, you're really concerned about a certain side of all the buildings.
Okay.
And you can say, we want to make sure during the paint project, we look into the replacing of the siding of the building. That can get written into the project as a change order or as an additional scoped item. So, and that doesn't require a change to your bylaws.
Okay.
So she's saying, Rose is recommending that during the paint project, as scheduled in the reserves, that you'd write in every time that we do that project, that we'd want to paint all the mailboxes and paint all of the light fixtures.
So that makes sense. However, we just completed the paint cycle not that long ago.
That's what I was thinking.
Look,
So what do we
there,
do
okay, so you-
now?
exactly, I mean, we're 5 years away from that happening,
Mm-hmm.
and the, you know, the committee, they don't like I mean, you imagine 5 more years from now, what it's gonna look like. So can you put a work order in that says, you know what, this was admitted in the last time, can we then get Cardinal Painting to come out and paint the light fixture?
Rose,
She's on mute.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, since we just did a paint project recently and we're far away from the next one, can we basically do a change order to pull from reserves, painting of mailboxes and carriage lights?
No, because as it is said right now in all service areas, according to the declaration, mailboxes and night fishing are the homeowner's responsibility. If what they wanted to do is add that for them, the service area to take care of that.
Yeah,
In order to do that, we have to do the voting and change the supplemental and all that process.
I think we may,
It's still the homeowner's responsibility right now, but we put it on hold until they took a decision on what they wanted to do. You know, if they wanted to go with the change of the supplemental.
which it sounds like they do want that vote.
They do want it?
Well, I don't think we're saying we do want to know, we want to know what course of action we can take to remedy the situation of the exterior. If they were omitted during the last time frame, the painting cycle, why can't we say that, you know, that we just didn't include that, which we should have, and pull money from the reserve? And just have Cardinal come back and repaint those
Yeah, I
things.
mean, it sounds like this, adding it is a future, like maybe.
And then in the future, we can put it there, you know, when we do it.
When you know what we need to address, so,
That way we build uniform feedback.
Jacob.
I think we can, my recommendation, I'll take this offline to talk to Lauren and General Counsel, Rose, but if we can get a quote, even a rough quote, just to know we'd be working with of what it would cost to do the painting of the mailboxes and that, we may be able just to see what we can do to make it happen now.
And to clarify, we're just talking about the poles, not the mailboxes themselves.
Oh, the mailbox poles and all carriage light painter.
Yep, not the mailboxes. We're trying leaving that owner responsibility.
I think you
We're
could-
talking about that
yeah.
pole, Shared pole.
It's easier, that's easier to add to a painter.
I think there's a way we can get this done with the recommendation from a committee. And we may need to still take it to the board, even if it's still under 5,000, but because it's not in line.
Still to check the legal with Lauren.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that's a good process to run down, just to see if we can do that as a one-time in the interim.
One other just painting related item, when the law firm came and pulled off the siding for some of the homes, there's one down by me, a green one, that they said they were gonna take it back to the original state that it was. The paint looks awful. You can clearly see exactly where they pulled those panels off. The green doesn't match. I don't know if the homeowners care much, but when I drive by it every day, I would just say they did not match it. It does not, you can clearly see that it looks like something has been done and somebody slapped some paint up and it looks frankly awful. Again, I don't know if that comes down to the homeowners themselves complaining, but they didn't put it back to the way it was supposed to be. It's terrible looking.
Because, and thank you, because I know what you're talking about. I've seen that
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
bad.
The other issue too, so that's one, that these are kind of ad hoc, but in the bigger picture here is the fact that we can't have in the bylaw, for instance, let's use the mailbox pole. Okay, you got 4 homeowners there. So the issue is the mailman hits the pole and snaps it. So you then have to go to all 4 to say you're gonna replace that mailbox, the mailbox holder that holds the 4 mailboxes. And half those people aren't here most of the time. They're they don't live here permanently. Okay, all those things have to be in the maintenance factor of things when you have multiple ownership under one situation, okay?
So, yeah.
That's one thing. So I think the bylaws are written incorrectly there. And then the other issue is I really applaud what you're trying to do here. It's an ad hoc situation until we get to, it's no different than shutters, okay? What happens if Cardinal came in and we didn't put in to paint the shutters?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the shutters need to be painted as well. We could also add that as the exterior lighting fixtures, moving forward after that in the bids.
Yeah,
So
you can't.
So I think that's a better way because I think trying to get 75% of anything in today's world is going to be almost impossible. We're going to be back to ground zero.
Our recommendation with mailbox poles would be that if the pole is snapped, I may not like this recommendation, but this is in line with. Yeah. We could fix it as the service area and then bill it individually. If we were to fix it like that, aesthetically, you won't like it. But in accordance to service area management, it would be fixed with 4 poles. So if that pole would be broken and it would be fixed, it really should have been sat as 4 poles. We have this in a different service area. Just yesterday, they were discussing this, where it's the opposite situation. They have multiple mailboxes on multiple poles, and they said, well, why is it like this? We should change it. And I said, absolutely, we would recommend not to.
For this
Because of this very situation.
Right.
So in this instance, moving forward, if something were to happen to the pole, it would be the recommendation that it would be replaced with every mailbox on a pole. Because then it keeps those clear lines of who's responsible for it moving forward. And then the cost of that project would be split amongst those homeowners.
Correct.
I know aesthetically, you're just looking at a lot more poles. But that's.
Well, or another sort of, nobody's going to want this to put a centralized mailbox area,
Oh, yeah.
Which that's not really.
The Postal Service would like that, but no, the homeowners.
Yeah, they won't. But I mean, I think right now I think we can overthink this. At this point, right, we don't have any broken poles. We have poles that desperately need to be painted, okay? We have mailboxes that anybody can go to Home Depot and buy the mailbox. It's a standard, black mailbox. I'm less concerned about that. But I am concerned about the poles and the lights that we keep uniformity there. We don't want to go to individual poles. And we write basically an amendment that.
I think we can, Rose is right. We need to check with legal and on
Yeah,
this,
fine.
but I really think we can probably move forward. You'd have to have a full SAP committee, which you.
We're gonna have.
Fine.
We'll have it.
So we can get a recommendation from the committee to do a small paint project to cover mailbox poles and carriage lights this year and the amount of this, and we can either look at pulling that out of your well-funded operating fund, which is much easier to do because there's no restrictions on how you can do that. To make it an expense from your reserve, we could, since it's,
Because of the roofing issue that.
I think that if you're looking, you have a well-funded operating fund, you have a general maintenance line, it's not that large. Your general maintenance line's at what, 4,000, I think? Yeah, 4,000. It could be coded to that. This could be part of general maintenance. It is an exception to standard processes, so we would write that, it would be approved, written as such. But I think that's a good path to go down for the short-term
I
solution.
agree. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Because we just need to find a decision that we can all live with, and then moving forward, we turn around and we put it as a part of the painting cycle, okay, when it happens. No different than shutters, no different than front doors, that type of thing. It's got to be a part of the bid process.
So Rose, I think with that. So with that, Rose, huh?
Because it's still under the supplemental, but we'll work it out.
I think we can work it out because that also can help us keep the current situation of the pause of violations. We can keep them paused because we think we may have a solution within months even, quickly. We just need a quick little blessing to do so, which I think we can. I think you can get this pushed through. It's pushed through as an exception and not as a standing process. But if there's funding to allow it, I think it can go through. It would just be like if we wanted to. Yeah, since they're well funded and they can pull out of operating, yeah,
Speaking of well-funded, I know you're gonna move forward with that, and I had sent them a message. They have the opportunity to invest some of that money they have, so.
that's a very great idea, especially since you don't have any large expenses coming. So we have a new finance manager named Ray who's starting next Wednesday. And it's already scoped for him to start reviewing financial investments with all service areas. So you'll probably in the next. In that one, we may just take, if we can do that probably quicker than your committee stands, or we can get your committee. You don't have to have a standing committee for this recommendation to go through. Even if you don't have a standing committee, he can recommend based on management to the CROA board an investment of your reserve funds. And the CROA board can choose to approve it without a committee or with a committee recommendation. They're always approving investments because they know it's in best interest of your community to do so. And they're in CDs or treasury, so it's not a risk investments.
Yeah, okay, well, I think we're going down a path of solution-based oriented. We've already shot at the solution versus I don't want to go down the path of saying, okay, we got to spend all this money to take it to a vote. We don't get that, and then we're back 3 months from now, not fixing the issue and spending a bunch of money, and we're at ground zero.
Yeah, to me, it's a dual pronged approach. I think we're not saying we're stopping that process. Because I think I know there's been a lot of work in reviewing and looking at changing your charter responsibilities, and I think it's still fine to entertain it and even look at, if you want to look at, spending the money to do the vote process to change your bylaws and this. You've done work on it. I mean, it is more bureaucratic work on our end, but I think it's not a bad idea to do it. Only in that sense too, you can put it to bed. If it fails because you don't get the attendance, you can at least put it to bed that you've tried. But while we do that, we're still working on how do we get things done today.
And I'm okay even with that strategy. I just want to make sure that we're coming with some type of solutions.
For the current.
Current.
And I think that's a good,
And that's exactly right. Because at that point right there, it's just like the landscaping issue. And what we have to show the homeowners in our group right, is actions are being taken. We're seeing results.
Yeah.
Okay, people can see the result of painting of the building. But when they're seeing the fact that, you know, landscaping going downhill and we got water related issues, we have sprinkler related issues and the plants still haven't gone in. And they're, you know, it's like it's like, you know, trying to answer the question of Final Jeopardy, you know, eventually the ding. So, you know, your minute is up. So,
I mean, I was just on site at a different service area that has really bad issues with the water pressure right now, where the heads aren't even popping out of the ground. So it's not we can't blame our landscaper.
No.
Because there's no water is the issue. And we can't even.
that's right. We don't want to plant all this stuff and then not have water.
Yeah, so I
Do
mean,
that.
their service area at least has better pressure than most, but I agree that we can even still move through the process on approving of these, and it's just discussing of the hold on planning. We'll get some pushback on saying, people see that there's been approvals made and the plants aren't in ground, but we're basing on smart planning to do it in the right time. Because right now, we're entering the very worst time, and we're entering a drought period, and the drought has started sooner than expected. So, yeah, we should be very cautious
Yeah,
with
the
that.
last thing we want to spend is $11,400 and then have, you know, again,
So-
additional.
Which we have done, we just did a lot of work, and we are still doing some sod change out in the muses on the Croa end, and they're taking okay because of your water pressure is doing well. And I was just at all of the muses this week in Spring Lake reviewing them with from a Croa standpoint.
And I apologize, perhaps I missed this, but do we have like an estimation of what the plan anticipates the planning being able to place?
We can get that approved, we can get this updated.
Mhm.
Hopefully you can get it updated and I'd say put it on the workshop for them to review, the board workshop, and that way it can go on the board meeting in April for approval. So that would mean that these would be approved at the end of April, and then we would do a project contract, which just takes the week after.
Because last I talked to Brian, it was gonna be like the next few weeks, and it sounds like that's not.
Have these been approved? Oh, they've already been approved. Oh, well then never mind. My apologies on that.
You know, I saw that communication about needing to water at off times to make sure there's sufficient water, but my understanding was the project was supposed to start, I think, this week.
Okay, no, they've already been approved, so now there's a discussion with Brian on that.
Which location? That's why we're gonna get a breakdown of which location he's gonna do on those.
Yeah, in the planting. I think you're not in any concern. We haven't had conversations with Brian about concerns on planting in your area because of your irrigation is successful
Like I said,
right
it's
now.
not communication saying, hey, we might need to water between these hours, you know, not.
Yeah, we talked about.
Yeah,
If-
and we're watering, yeah, like this is, we have sprinklers going on during the day in our parks, and we were getting people complaining, I'm walking my dog and the sprinklers are on.
Yeah. so
Stop it.
my
We're like,
understanding based
no.
on it was that the planting was still going to commence according to the schedule that we had understood it to be commencing.
I think that's correct.
But that there just might be some water.
Can we send out that progress? I probably have it in if you resend out what addresses are gonna be addressed with that budget? Again, that copy right there, can you send that out to both Jennifer and I? It's just so when I get some photos.
Mhm. Yeah,
If it's an address, if someone calls me on, such a,
address.
address, then we're talking about what's gonna go into from a planning perspective.
Yes.
And I guess the one question I would ask there was because again, we only got about a certain percentage of the hedge has died off, that they would replace it and that sort of thing. And I wonder if any revisions have been made to that plan since, given what we had discussed with Brian during our walk and sort of the threshold for doing plant placement.
No, well, no, because you have Resolute and, all the. See, this is what's wrong. Yeah, like all of these, if I say 1472, what is that? Okay, that's my point.
Okay.
So when you were saying earlier, that's why I'm thinking, did I miss something here? Because all I'm seeing is numbers here, even though there's plans. I'm not seeing an address of what that is. So is this 1472 resolute? Because I can tell you 13, that this is Kiowa. Okay, I can just tell by the thing, but it doesn't say that. So what we need to have really, when we're getting people that are saying, hey, I live at such and such address, what am I getting?
We need like a map.
It usually has the street.
It usually does, yeah, it usually do have more than just that, but that's an easy change too, because he'll know what that means and he can add the street name to it.
That would be perfect. And if we can do that, that would be great.
Hey, Rose.
Yeah,
Did you hear what I was basically saying?
about the adding the street to.
Yeah.
the-
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm listening, but when you did the walkthrough with Brian, you went through that estimate.
No, I'm okay with the estimate. I just don't know, when I say to you, 1361, where's that at?
Yeah, we can have him at that, but it's the same route that you walked with it.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not questioning the walk, and I'm not suggesting to change anything in the budget. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, he just wants to make sure that the quote
It's clear.
is clear of what is actually getting planted, because right now it's missing some information and has some outdated plans.
Sure, we'll fix that.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Rose. So I'll wait till we get this, and so when Dale and all those guys call me from the other,
Yeah.
and they're on, when am I getting done? I could say, oh, let me pull this up, Dale, you're at this address, this is what you're getting.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Dale, no.
I know we're reaching the end of our time. Do we have any other things to discuss? Nothing from our end. Rose, do you have any other discussion items? I think so.
They have anything else that-
No, I think just that, I love the solution of potentially in a short term of doing this, what we're talking about. Of getting those poles painted in the light fixture thing, and then we're suspended until we don't hear anything, any additional letters going out. From saying that they gotta fix something, all that's, is taken care of, so we'll field these questions. Rose, it looks like we're gonna get another applicant, it looks like we'll have a third committee member, applying for the third position on the committee. I sent the forms to him, 2 days ago, so you're forthcoming. He lives on Kiowa, named Mark.
Rose and Mark, just so you're aware on that, it's still a double process. We're in a weird time, but he can be appointed now
Until June.
until June. If he wants to stay on, he needs to submit the same application we're asking you all to submit, which is the 2025-2026 committee member application.
Okay.
So he probably needs to submit two, one to be on currently, and then one.
Is there a
from
different-
the actual meeting.
If I'm
The same form?
Same form. It was just so they were giving them the option because the other person resigned so quickly before the term. To
Yeah.
get someone to replace that portion, they had to get someone by the 7th, so we can include them for the rest of the term. It's the same form.
Okay, so we may just resubmit the same form for him then.
That's fine. All right, so, I know Jennifer Scott Burrs, and I'll do my due diligence for me, so.
Yeah, I don't. My resume, there, so I'll just wait. But is it the 20?
You still have time.
You have plenty of time.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I have this filled out, but if they want to see the resume, that's fine. But it's okay, 2025 is the one for Nick.
You don't have to put a resume in.
Okay, I don't know, if it comes down to a vote, maybe I
I
need
was gonna say, if you have like 7 applicants, then it's, the more, but,
to, so I'll put it on there.
but also in that case, it's your association doing the vote and you have, name rep. So from being on this committee, so that, and I assume you get the votes unless there's a big slate against you, but all right, well, with that, I think we will conclude this discussion meeting.
All right, feel better, Rose.
Thanks, Rose. Bye.